I live alone. No alarms, no sleep tracking apps. So tell me, how did a photo end up in my camera roll at 3:17 a.m.? I was asleep. The room was dark. And the worst part? I'm in the photo. But I didn't take it. Want to know what else I found? Stay until the end. My name is Marcus, and what I'm about to tell you happened 3 weeks ago. I've been debating whether to share this story, but after what I discovered, I need to get this out there. Maybe someone can explain what happened to me. Maybe you've experienced something similar. But I'm warning you now, this isn't just about a mysterious photo. This is about something much darker, something that made me question everything I thought I knew about living alone. I'm a software engineer, work from home, pretty routine life. Every morning, I wake up at 7 a.m., grab my phone, check messages. You know the drill. But that Tuesday morning was different. As I scrolled through notifications, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A photo notification from 3:17 a.m. I don't take photos at night. Hell, I barely use my camera during the day. I tapped on it, and there it was, a picture of me sleeping. The angle was wrong though. It's too high, like someone was standing over my bed, looking down at me. My face was peaceful, completely unaware, and the room was lit by what looked like a phone's flashlight. But here's the thing that made me panic. The photo was taken from my own phone. I immediately checked my phone's security settings. No one else had access. No remote connections. No suspicious apps. I lived alone in a second-floor apartment. With deadbolts and a security system I always armed before bed. I examined the photo more carefully. The timestamp was definitely 3:17 a.m. The metadata showed it was taken with my exact phone model, but the angle? It was impossible. For me to take that photo of myself sleeping, I would have had to be standing beside my bed, holding the phone above my head. The lighting was all wrong too. There was this eerie blue glow illuminating half my face, but my room doesn't have any lights that color. I keep blackout curtains, and my phone charges on the nightstand, not hovering in midair above my bed. I spent the entire day analyzing every pixel, every shadow, every reflection. Nothing made sense. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, wondering if someone had been in my apartment. I checked the locks 3 times, looked under the bed, in the closets, behind the shower curtain. Everything was normal, but I didn't feel safe. I decided to set up a makeshift security system. I positioned my laptop to record my bedroom all night, just to prove to myself that nothing strange was happening. I put my phone in airplane mode and placed it across the room, far from my bed. At exactly 3:17 a.m., I woke up. Not gradually, but suddenly, like someone had shaken me awake. The room was pitch black, but I had this overwhelming feeling that someone was watching me. I reached for my phone to check the time, but it wasn't where I left it. It was back on my nightstand, and it wasn't in airplane mode anymore. My hands were shaking as I unlocked my phone. Another photo. Same time, stomp 3:17 a.m. This time, the image was different. I was sitting up in bed, eyes wide open, staring directly into the camera. But I don't remember waking up. I don't remember sitting up. The expression on my face in the photo wasn't fear or confusion. It was blank, empty, like I was looking through the camera, not at it. And behind me, in the darkness of my room, there was a shadow that didn't belong to any furniture or wall. The shadow looked like a person standing in my doorway. I immediately checked my laptop's recording. The video showed me sleeping peacefully until 3:16 a.m. Then, nothing. The recording stopped. The file was corrupted from 3:16 to 3:18 a.m. Just those 2 minutes were missing. But the audio kept recording, and at 3:17 a.m., I could hear something that made my skin crawl. Footsteps, slow, deliberate footsteps walking around my bed. I barely slept for the next 3 days. I researched everything I could find about phones. Taking photos automatically, sleepwalking, sleep disorders, even paranormal activity. I found stories of people sleep texting, sleep driving, but nothing about sleep-photography. Then I found something interesting. A forum post from a user named Insomniac Reality describing almost the exact same experience. Photos taken at 3:17 a.m. showing them sleeping, but they lived alone. The post was from 2 months ago, and the user had updated it several times. The updates got progressively more disturbing. The photos started showing other people in their apartment. First, just shadows. Then, blurry figures. Finally, clear images of strangers standing in their bedroom watching them sleep. The last update was just one sentence: "I don't live alone anymore." The user never posted again. I tried to message Insomniac Reality, but their account was deleted. However, I found other similar posts. It's always the same time, 3:17 a.m. Always the same progression, always ending with the user disappearing from the forum. I decided to post my own story, asking for help. Within minutes, I got a private message from someone called Watcher in the Dark. "Don't investigate this further. Delete the photos. Move apartments. Don't look back." I replied asking for more information, but they wouldn't explain. They just kept insisting I needed to leave immediately. When I pressed for details, they sent me one final message: "She's already chosen you. The photos are just the beginning." At 3:17 a.m., the veil is thinnest. She can cross over. Then their account was deleted too. Who was she? Against every instinct screaming at me to leave, I decided to stay one more night. I needed answers. I set up multiple cameras, audio recorders, even drew chalk marks on the floor to see if anything moved. I forced myself to stay awake until 3:16 a.m., watching everything carefully. At exactly 3:17 a.m., all my equipment shut off simultaneously. The room plunged into absolute darkness, darker than it should have been. My blackout curtains weren't that effective. In that darkness, I heard something that will haunt me forever. A woman's voice, soft and melodic, singing a lullaby I didn't recognize. The voice was coming from everywhere and nowhere, like it was inside my head. I couldn't move. Not because I was scared, but because my body wouldn't respond. I was paralyzed, lying there listening to this ethereal voice getting closer and closer. Then I felt it. Someone sitting on the edge of my bed. The mattress dipped under their weight. A hand touched my face. Ice cold, with fingers too long to be human. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The singing stopped, and in the silence, I heard breathing that wasn't mine. "Marcus," the voice whispered, right next to my ear. "I've been waiting for you to notice me." The paralysis broke, and I shot up, reaching for my phone's flashlight. The room was empty, but my phone was in my hand, showing a photo that had just been taken. This time, the image showed me sitting up in bed, terror written across my face, and next to me, clear as day, was a woman. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way, pale skin, long black hair, and eyes that seemed to hold depths I couldn't fathom. She was wearing a white dress that looked like it belonged to another century. But the most disturbing part wasn't her appearance. It was her smile. She was smiling at the camera like she knew I would see this photo. Like she wanted me to see it. I couldn't stay in that apartment another minute. I packed a bag and drove to a hotel across town. But even there, I couldn't escape the feeling of being watched. I researched the address of my apartment building, looking for any history of deaths or unusual incidents. What I found made everything click into place. In 1943, a woman named Evelyn Thorne had lived in my exact apartment. She was a photographer, one of the first women to work professionally in the field. According to old newspaper articles, she had become obsessed with capturing what she called the moment between sleep and death. Evelyn believed that at 3:17 a.m., the human spirit was most vulnerable, most open to other realms. She would photograph people while they slept, claiming she could capture their souls leaving their bodies. The article said she had died in her apartment, under mysterious circumstances. Her body was found in her bed, her camera in her hands, filled with photos of herself sleeping. The last photo on the roll showed her sitting up in bed, staring at something just out of frame, with an expression of pure terror. I found more information about Evelyn. She hadn't just photographed strangers, she had lived with them. She would somehow convince people to let her move in, claiming she was studying sleep patterns. Her subjects would report strange experiences. Feeling watched, finding photos they didn't remember taking, and always the same timestamp, 2:3:17 a.m. Several of her subjects had disappeared. The police investigated, but Evelyn claimed they had simply moved away. No bodies were ever found, but the missing persons cases remained open. The last newspaper article about her was published the day after her death. A quote from her personal journal had been found. "I have perfected the technique. At 3:17 a.m., I can cross the veil between sleep and waking, between life and death. Soon, I will never have to be alone again." I realized with growing horror that Evelyn hadn't died in 1943. She had found a way to exist between worlds, and she was still collecting subjects, still taking photos, still trying to never be alone. I knew I couldn't go back to my apartment. But I also knew that wouldn't stop her. The forum posts I'd read made it clear once Evelyn had chosen you, distance didn't matter. She would find you. I spent the next day researching everything I could about her methods, her history, looking for any way to break whatever connection she had formed with me. I found references to her camera, an antique piece that had supposedly been buried with her. But here's what chilled me to the bone. I found a recent estate sale listing. Someone had bought items from a storage unit that had belonged to Evelyn Thorne. The storage unit had been sealed since 1943, and among the items sold was her camera. The sale had taken place 3 months ago. The buyer was listed as E. Thorne, with an address that didn't exist. Evelyn had somehow bought back her own camera. I decided to confront this head-on. I couldn't run forever, and I needed to understand what she wanted from me. I returned to my apartment, but this time, I was prepared. I had researched protection methods, gathered items that were supposed to ward off spirits. And most importantly, I had a plan. I set up cameras again, but this time, I also had an old film camera, the same model Evelyn had used. My theory was that she could interfere with digital technology, but old film might be immune to her influence. At 3:16 a.m., I was ready. The room grew cold, and I could sense her presence. This time, I wasn't paralyzed. I could move, and I could speak. "Evelyn," I said to the darkness, "I know who you are. I know what you want." The temperature dropped even further, and I could see my breath in the air. Then she appeared, not gradually, but all at once, standing at the foot of my bed. "You're not afraid," she said, and her voice was different now. Less ethereal, more human. The others were always afraid. "What do you want from me?" I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the terror clawing at my chest. Evelyn tilted her head, studying me with those impossibly deep eyes. "Companionship." She said simply, "I've been alone for so long. Do you know what it's like to exist between worlds, watching life continue without you?" She moved closer, and I could see she wasn't quite solid. There was a translucent quality to her, like looking through water. "I choose carefully," she continued. "People who live alone, who understand solitude. People who might appreciate, never, being alone again." "What happened to the others?" I asked, though I dreaded the answer. Her smile was sad and terrifying at the same time. "They joined me. They couldn't handle the transition at first, but eventually they understood. We take photos together now, Document our existence between the worlds. It's quite beautiful, actually. I realized she wasn't just a ghost haunting people, she was collecting souls, building herself a family of the displaced and the lonely. I can offer you something no one else can, Evelyn said, sitting on the edge of my bed again. Immortality. Freedom from the mundane world. No more loneliness, no more wondering if this is all there is to existence. I looked at her, this beautiful, terrifying woman who had been collecting souls for over 80 years. And if I refuse, her expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room plummeted. You can't refuse, Marcus. You've seen too much. You know too much. The photos have already begun the transition. Haven't you noticed you've been feeling different? More detached from the world. She was right. Over the past few days, I had felt increasingly disconnected from reality. Colors seemed muted. Food had no taste, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was watching my life from outside my body. The transition has already begun, she confirmed. You can fight it and exist in agony between worlds, or you can accept it and join us willingly. Either way, you're no longer fully human. I had a choice to make, but it wasn't really a choice at all. I looked at Evelyn, this entity who had been collecting souls for decades, and I made my decision. But it wasn't the decision she expected. I'll join you, I said, but on one condition. She raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. I want to understand. I want to see your collection, meet the others, learn how this all works before I fully commit. Evelyn smiled, and for the first time, it reached her eyes. Very well. But remember, Marcus, once you see the truth of our existence, there's no going back. She extended her hand, and the moment I took it, the world shifted. My apartment faded away, and I found myself in a place that existed between spaces, between moments. And there they were, dozens of people, all with that same translucent quality, all holding cameras, all looking at me with welcome in their eyes. Welcome to the family, Evelyn said. Now, you might be wondering how I'm telling you this story if I joined Evelyn's collection. The truth is, I had one advantage that her other victims didn't have. I'm a software engineer. While she could manipulate digital cameras and electronics, she couldn't understand the code I had written and hidden in my phone's operating system. The moment she tried to complete my transition, my phone activated a program I had designed. It sent out a signal that disrupted whatever energy she used to exist between worlds. For just a moment, she became solid again. And in that moment, I took a photo of her with the old film camera. The flash was like a small explosion. Evelyn screamed. And suddenly, I was back in my apartment, alone. The temperature returned to normal, and she was gone. But here's the thing that still keeps me awake at night when I developed that film. The photo showed my empty apartment. No Evelyn. No evidence she had ever been there. But in the corner of the image, barely visible, was a shadow that looked like a woman. And she was holding a camera pointed directly at me. I moved out the next day. I've been living in different places ever since, never staying anywhere too long. Because sometimes, at exactly 3:17 a.m., I still wake up with the feeling that someone is watching me. And sometimes, just sometimes, I find new photos on my phone. So if you ever wake up to find mysterious photos on your device, photos you didn't take, ask yourself this: do you really live alone, or is someone just very good at hiding? Sweet dreams, everyone. And maybe keep your phone on airplane mode tonight.